Seriously, this just pops right out? Whew, forgive the sweat. Oh boy, it's hot. In today's video, I'm going to be telling you about the different cream foundation palettes that I've used in my professional makeup artist kit over the years. I prefer cream to liquid in my kit because I travel a lot and things jostle around, and I find that liquid's more likely to break or spill. Cream is also easier because you can see a lot of them all at once, and it makes it easier to formulate. You just scoop a little bit out with a palette knife, you put it on your palette, and you mix however you need to. With liquid, when you pour the liquid out, I find it's more wasteful to try to find the best color because you end up squirting out more than you intended to. Some people feel that cream is a little too thick, but I find when you mix it with a primer or a moisturizer, you dilute it enough to get to the consistency that you want for that particular client so that you could have almost a tinted moisturizer. This Bobbi Brown liquid foundation, which is like almost gone, I think it's around $40 or something like that. Imagine having to get this 20 times. That's a lot of money, where I can just buy this palette to get all those colors for around $200. It just makes way more sense to go with cream. I just want you to know that this is not a sponsored video. I didn't collaborate with any companies on this. These are things that I have paid for that are in my kit that I do use regularly or have used in the past in my career as a makeup artist for over 10 years now, I think. Makes me sound so old. Now, I was trained at the Makeup Designory in Burbank. My mom always tells me to brag that I'm a Hollywood trained makeup artist, so there you go, my little brag, just for you, Mom. So at the Makeup Designory, we were given a starter kit, and in those came 2 different foundation palettes that were both cream, and I'm gonna show them to you right now. I kept these in my kit for a long time. These palettes are actually called Palette 1 and Palette 2. I've labeled them pink and olive. I know it looks a little tacky because I just wrote it on a sticker. I didn't have a cool label maker at the time. Now, if I want to be really picky, I would actually call the top layer yellow. These are little olive, these are little red, but I just liked those terms, olive and pink. The labels just make it easier for me, you know, when I'm digging around in my kit trying to find something when 2 palettes look the same. Now, there's a good chance that the packaging has changed over the years, so if you go to the Makeup Designory now to look for this, they might look a little different. But again, this is palette 1 and this is palette 2. And I really recommend this for beginners. It pretty much has everything you'll need in it. If you mix the colors to match your client or the performer in your chair, this should have you covered. It's a really great starter. There were some girls in school who were like, oh, these don't blend very well. Well, I found they blended pretty well, but because some other people were whining about these and said there were better stuff out there, I was like, okay, tell me what you recommend. And some of the girls had said they loved Cinema Secrets. The Cinema Secrets foundations are really awesome. I still love them, and I still keep several of them in my kit, because they're super blendable, they're really creamy, they're really easy to manipulate on the skin. When you're working on clients, they come to you with a wide variety of skin types, but also skin conditions. Some people do not moisturize their skin well enough, and it gets really dry. And if you have a really thick foundation and you're using a sponge to swipe the color on and blend it, sometimes you end up almost exfoliating their skin with the sponge, and it can be really frustrating because you're not giving them a facial, you're just trying to put some foundation on their skin and it starts to flake off and looks peely and gross, and that's not a good thing. The Cinema Secret foundation I found is very creamy, very blendable. Now, the one thing I don't like about the Cinema Secrets foundation is how many of these little palettes they have. There's even more than these, so I picked out the 3 I thought I'd get the most use out of. I just labeled them fair, coral, and dark, but those aren't the official names. They're just the names I came up with so that when I'm digging through my kit, I can easily say, oh, that's what that is. The fair is actually kit number 7, and all the numbers here are on the back. It's like number 507-45, 505-31. It's actually rather complicated. It's not intuitive. So I didn't like how hard it was to determine which color was which. The names are not intuitive at all. I also didn't like the packaging. These feel kind of cheap and dinky, but I've seen on their website they have some new packaging that looks a lot fancier and a lot more professional than this. I didn't feel like spending the money to buy more foundation just so I can have the latest, sexiest packaging. I don't live in LA anymore, so it's not easy for me to go down there and just check it out, so I can't tell you if it's nicer, but the pictures make them seem nicer. But as a professional makeup artist, people judge you for your kit, and if they see this, you're like, yes, it's Cinema Secrets, it's movie makeup, it's cinematic, it's great stuff. If it looks dinky or you can see the plastic starts to get fogged up, when it gets old or scratched, and I've even had these break off and I had to tape them down. It just looks really cheap. So I was sort of on the market for a new foundation purely because I just didn't think these looked as professional as they could. I was on a photo shoot and a makeup artist was swearing by Bobbi Brown. She said, I only use Bobbi Brown, I love Bobbi Brown. And her palette looked so beautiful, let me show you. It was super sturdy. Look at these hinges. Like, they're metal, they're legit. This is pretty heavy duty, it's not light and plasticky. It didn't look like it was going to break or get damaged in my kit. And so I loved how sturdy it was. I also loved that Bobbi Brown is a household name brand. People have heard of it, they respect it. They think of it as a high-end product you can get in department stores instead of some dinky plastic thing that they've never heard of. And I really liked that when you open it, all the names are right here. So if someone says, oh my gosh, this is the best concealer I've ever used, this color is perfect for me, what is it? I can easily see what it is. They can write it down and go purchase it if they want. And here are the foundations. You can see Bobbi Brown uses a lot of warm colors. She really likes warm. She's not into pink. Now this can be a problem for some people who don't have a warm undertone. I use the Cool Ivory of Bobbi Brown on myself, which I'm actually not seeing in this palette, but even the Cool Ivory, actually here it is. Why don't I just show you the cream tube? Even that is still pretty warm. It's cool for her, but it's still warm. Now, the one thing about this kit that confuses me personally is she has two different concealer formulas, one that's more for under eyes and the other she markets more towards pigmentation. And I can never for the life of me remember which one's which. There's not an obvious divide where the two formulas are. I got this like cheat sheet card that had a little squiggly line that showed you where which one was, but I could never remember, so I don't follow those rules necessarily, those rules, quote unquote. The other thing that she's missing from here is she doesn't have any green concealers. When you have redness around your nose or acne, you want to use a greenish yellow concealer to cover those spots, because if you've learned color theory, you want to use the opposite of the color to help cancel that out. And she doesn't have anything like that in here. This one, a little bit, which is porcelain, but even still, it's not that green. So I would say, yes, this is the perfect palette. Grab it anytime. It has everything you need, but it doesn't. It doesn't have the green. And if someone really is a pink undertone, this doesn't have that either. But that doesn't mean this is a bad palette. Definitely go for it. It's rather pricey. I think it's around $200. If you are a professional makeup artist, you can go into the Bobbi Brown website, prove that you're a professional by submitting some sort of documents or showing your professional website, and you can get a significant discount. She also has one of these palettes for lipstick, which I'm rather tempted to get, and she has all these lipstick colors in it. So take a look at that if you're interested. The other thing about the Bobbi Brown formula, which isn't ideal as a professional makeup artist, is it's very thick. It's hard to blend. The woman who recommended this palette to me was actually a Bobbi Brown educator at one point, and she explained that Bobbi Brown recommends using your hands to warm up the formula to make it really blendable. So for me on myself, that's not a problem, but I don't like to use my hands on my clients when I can help it. Some people don't want to be touched with your hands. Even if you've just washed them, it just makes them uncomfortable. So I like to use brushes and sponges. On myself, I use my hands all the time, but I try not to use my hands on clients. And I do find that Bobbi Brown is hard to blend. And even when I mix it in with primer, it's thick, it's hard to move around. The coverage is great because it's nice and thick. I'm just trying to explain some of the pros and cons. Again, this is not a bad palette. I love having it in my kit. I do use it. The other reason I wouldn't say that this has everything in it is these dark colors. These dark colors that you generally use on someone of African descent or possibly Indian or Middle Eastern descent, they're very red. Do you see how red those are? There's some that are more mustard undertones here and then some that are more red. They're beautiful colors, gorgeous on so many people. I do love them. However, I was on a film shoot when these two very handsome African-American gentlemen sat in my chair, and I thought, oh my gosh, I'm so excited I get to use these colors because I haven't gotten to play with them yet because my palette was still pretty new. Well, they did not have a red undertone at all. I ended up having to use this. Do you see how, let's compare them right next to each other. It's something people don't think about. They go, oh, you're brown. It's like, well, no. There's not one shade of brown. let's compare these right next to each other if I can. Do you see those colors? Do you see how red this looks and how olive, almost greenish this color looks in comparison to this? This color mixed with this, or this mixed with this, depending on who the person was in my chair. This is what I went for that day. Both gentlemen were that color, not this color. So I'm really glad I also had this. Okay, I still have one more palette. The Makeup Forever Professional Paris palette costs around $100, and I didn't need it because I already had all these other things. But I was at a makeup convention and they were offering an amazing deal where you could get this palette also. It was like a buy one, get one half off or a buy one, get one free. I don't remember, but it was amazing. So I couldn't resist and I got both. Now, I haven't grabbed for this one as much as I thought I would. Well, actually that's not true. You can see I've scooped out quite a bit. But you can also see they're still on the pinker side. Let's compare, shall we? I always think of this one as being more pink, but these do have a bit of golden olive. You'll notice there's some white here, so you can lighten anything. And there's an empty spot here, so if you want to mix your own color and put it in. Some people think that's just a waste of space when you could have put another pre-formulated color in there. Because it is true. I mean, I'm going to scoop this out, put it on a palette, mix it for that specific client to match their skin tone. I'm not going to put it in here for later, but I guess if I'm working with one celebrity or one client over and over again, then yeah, maybe I'd want some pre-mixed stuff in here. But this is the Makeup Forever palette. Like I said, I don't find myself grabbing this that much, but it's a great cream palette. It's a little creamier and smoother to apply than the Bobbi Brown, but I still think Cinema Secrets goes on the creamiest and smoothest. Now, if only Cinema Secrets would make a big palette like Bobbi Brown's where everything was there, then yeah, I think they would be the winner for sure. But each one of these palettes is around $40, I think, so it does add up. And like I said, the numbering system is a little bit complicated. Like for example, this is kit number 10, but then each of the formulas start with a 2. Why don't they start with a 10? Why isn't it 10-200, 10-300? It makes no sense. It really doesn't. On the Cinema Secrets website, I have seen little descriptions for each of these palettes where they try to explain the undertones in them, but it's not intuitive at all. But the formula is great, so definitely consider it. Two other things, since I'm talking about Cinema Secrets, it's not foundation, but since we're talking about it, I love their primer, and Cinema Secrets Makeup Brush Wash is awesome, and it's now available on Amazon. I used to load up whenever I was in LA. I go to their store and just buy a ton of these huge jugs. Well, now I can just go on Amazon Prime and get a huge jug whenever I want. So that's pretty cool. It's a standard in the industry. Everyone loves the Cinema Secrets Makeup Brush Wash. You just dip it and wipe it and it's gone. It's just good. Just trust me. All right, one more thing. This is more like concealer. This one is the Alcone brand. Krylon has a few of these as well. It's really nice because it's really small and it has a bunch of wonderful colors in it for mixing. The one thing I don't like is this plastic case and how cheap and dinky it is, and also this. Like seriously, this just pops right out. And yes, it did. It popped out like the first day I had it and fell on the floor. And then I had to spray this all down with alcohol and clean any lint that fell in it. It was really annoying. Ugh. But it's sanitary now because it's been disinfected. If you have a preference on any of these companies, let me know. I'd love to hear them. Or if there's another company that I'm not using that I should be, let me know. I actually do read all of my comments because I'm still small enough that I can actually do that. And if you haven't subscribed yet, please do. It means the world. I get excited about every single new subscriber. Seriously, I do. Ask my husband every day. I tell him how many more subscribers I have. Isn't that true?
It's true.
It's true. So do it. Subscribe, please. Thank you.